Hi, welcome to Terribly Fun Films. I'm your host Bobby, and in September I am going to Dragon Con. For those of you unfamiliar with it, Dragon Con is a massive sci-fi, horror, fantasy, general nerd stuff convention in Atlanta, Georgia. It starts September 1st this year. As such, I thought it would be fun if we did what I'm dubbing Dragon Con Countdown, in which I will review movies that star the celebrities who are going to be there. I might also be doing one book. We'll see how I can squeeze that in there. So every review until then will be either starring or co-starring one of the celebrities who are going to be there. This will not affect the Nerd Show and Tells or the Bobby Babbles, as those don't have a actual release date. But the main videos will be this, going up through the weekend afterwards, in which that Friday I will release a video about the con. Photos, things I got there, that kind of thing. So, with that out of the way, today's movie is the Korean animated film Bling, and it stars Jon Heder, best known as Napoleon Dynamite, as one of the voices. Let's see what this weird movie's all about. I don't always give a full-on plot synopsis in my reviews. Usually, I either expect you to have heard of it, or I give just enough to get you an idea of what's going on, and then go about reviewing the aspects of the film I usually talk about. However, this is going to be an interesting case wherein I feel I need to go to fairly in-depth explanation of this plot so you can understand exactly how utterly original this movie is. As we've already discussed, originality does not always equal good, but definitely doesn't equal bad either. So the plot of this movie is set in the near future, where robots have become just a mainstay. And we follow the character Sam, who is a mechanic at an amusement park. He fixes the robots, he creates shows and programs the robots to be in the shows. He also fixes like ATMs and things like that. He is dating Sue, and he's known Sue since they were both little kids. And he's trying to work up the nerve to ask her to marry him. That is where the title comes from, Bling, as in like a real shiny, blingy ring. She's a news reporter, and she just got an offer from a network in London, so she might be moving away. So there's a set time limit on getting that done. All the while, greatest supervillain the world has ever seen, Victor, becomes obsessed with the mayor of the city and decides to prove his love to her by doing, well, super villainy things. He's crazy because he's a super villain. So then the superhero robots that Sam has made need to stop the supervillain from destroying the city on Valentine's Day, which is the majority of when this movie takes place. Not the only day, but majority of it. So that Sam can propose to his girlfriend before she moves to London. What we have here is a sci-fi rom-com set in a world where superheroes exist, aimed at children. I did state I've never seen anything like this before, and I was not kidding. This is a very weird movie. Well, the two biggest problems from a story standpoint are A, Sam and Sue have known each other since they were roughly 7 or 8 years old, and they keep talking about how they've both been waiting 20 years for him to propose. This would imply that when they first met and became friends is when they decided they loved each other. Nothing wrong with that per se, but an 8-year-old does not have the concept of marriage and a lifetime together and what that means. So this does make everything a little bit kind of creepy. Unintentional, obviously, but it's not as sweet as the writers think it is. And because we see them when they're kids and they have a little fight, like fake fight session, it's odd. And then we just jump to them as adults already dating. We skip 20 years. It doesn't really connect. Like, she moved away. Did they reconnect? Did they just start dating in high school? I honestly cannot tell you how long they've actually been dating. I can only tell you how long they've known each other. So that does not work really at all. That's a minor issue. All you need to know is they've been dating for a while. She's wanting him to ask. He keeps trying to do these big, dramatic proposals involving the robots and fireworks that never pan out in what are admittedly some rather amusing Looney Tunes-esque sequences, and we'll get more into that in a little bit. The other major issue in the film is world building. There is virtually none. Set in the near future, robots just kind of coexist. There are robot servants, there are robot police, there are robot kind of everything. They haven't replaced most jobs, but they are ubiquitous enough to where nobody bats an eye that they just, hang around them. That's all well and good. But also establishing that superheroes and supervillains exist, and we get nothing beyond that. We have one supervillain, and they honestly do refer to him as a supervillain, not just a bad guy, not a mob boss, nothing like that, just continually refer to him as a supervillain, specifically the world's greatest supervillain. As in, there are other supervillains, but he's the best. He's the most evil, he's the most daring, that sort of thing. What happened to the actual superheroes? Because the only superheroes we see in the movie are robots. They're the three main robots that are, I guess, best friends for the character of Sam. No other superheroes exist, but clearly supervillains exist. So, mustn't that mean superheroes exist? It's very confusing. And it could even just be Iron Man and Batman type people where they don't actually have superpowers, but they have money and gadgets and armored suits and that kind of thing. This world was not thought out that well, and it's very confusing to watch because of it, because nothing about it makes a ton of sense. With those being out of the way, though, I did enjoy this movie. There's some very funny dialogue. The film was written by Chris Danick, Hai Jung Kim, Kung Ho Lee, Saul Blinkoff, and Suk-hoon Choi. That's a lot of people, and I think that's one of the issues there really is there's a lot going on. The world clearly had a lot of ideas in it, but none of them are explored all that well outside of the robots existing. So it just doesn't totally work. However, these writers also mean that everything just keeps happening. It's a very, very fast-paced movie. It's if you have kids, they will probably really enjoy this. There's a lot of crazy antics going on, lots of bright colors. It's just crazy, and it's definitely kind of fun, even if it gets a little lowbrow at times. I don't think the kids will mind that. The set pieces themselves, the individual action sequences, mostly work. There are a few things. The three superhero robots, I'll I'll get more into them in a bit when we discuss the characters and the actors. They have a habit of not listening to Sam for no other reason than to bundle his plans that he's making. And it doesn't make sense. We're not given a reason, like, we're not told that they have a defect. We're not told that they think they know better than Sam and his plans, or anything like that. They just don't, and it's kind of odd. Not necessarily a deal breaker, but weird. There are some funny lines, some weird lines that are so out there that you just can't help but try to figure out how they came up with that line in context of writing the script, but it's still humorously bizarre. Sam's character arc is fairly well thought out. He goes from being kind of meek and wanting to be somebody he's kind of not in terms of these big giant proposals to Sue, into a more self-assured person who does a very simple proposal and that kind of thing, and that's nice. He is kind of the only character with an arc, though. When we get into the character discussion, I'll get more into that. The movie was directed by Kang Ho Lee, you'll recognize as one of the screenwriters, and Wang Jae Lee, and their direction is perfectly fine. There's nothing wrong with the direction in the film. It moves quickly, it moves very energetically, it keeps the pace nicely, the gags keep coming, the characters all have a moment or two to do their thing. Nothing's wrong with it, but being that it's an animated movie involving supervillains and robots and a diamond ring that's actually a bomb, the direction feels a little live action-y, if that makes sense. I'm not sure if it does. In a movie like this that involves a flying hot air balloon or a blimp, I think it was a blimp, some sort of Zeppelin type thing, and robots and missiles, several thousands of missiles being launched at a city. They're very safe within their camera work and their camera angles. We don't get any really crazy shots. Like in Wreck-It Ralph, when we go from the arcade and we zoom into the machine, down the power cord, into the power strip, right? It's all edited and conceived to look like it's one basic shot. And we fly in, and then we're revealed this is the world we live in, and we see all these video game characters about. That kind of a shot would have been much harder in live action. That's why you do animated movies, is to show us things that would be much harder to do in live action, to be free from the reins of gravity, that sort of thing. And this film never takes that head on. There are a few very fun sequences that are very enjoyable, especially the action in the film is, again, very good. But you could remake this movie line for line in a live action setting and get virtually, shot for shot, virtually the exact same outcome. Some of the character designs have to just be tweaked with to make it work in live action proper, but beyond that, it would be the exact same looking film. You could do a shot for shot remake in live action and have nothing change. I can't say that about Moana. I can't even say that about animated movies I dislike, like Secret Life of Pets. So that's kind of disappointing. Again, that doesn't mean the direction's bad per se, it's just very safe, very journeyman. I don't know if it's due to low budget. I don't know the budget on this film at all. I don't know if it's just due to them not having worked in animation at all. I don't know. But I do imagine a director with a greater sense of style could have made something more of this film. Taylor Kitsch plays our main character of Sam. Most people probably know Taylor Kitsch from Friday Night Lights and his big budget bombs of John Carter of Mars and Battleship. I really love John Carter. I think that movie is awesome, and I'll probably do a review of that sometime in the future when I do the Asylum's version as well, which, again, different story. I thought he was really good in that movie. I watched the first season of Friday Night Lights and really enjoyed it. It's the only season of that show I saw, though, but he was really good in that show, too. He was, however, god-awful in Battleship. However, everything about Battleship was god-awful. How does he fare here, then? Alright, he's okay. He's a bit monotone at times. There are lines he gives where they're a bit more energetic and a bit more upbeat and a bit more appropriate to the situation. Then there are times where he's sounding a little bit bored. Maybe they had to recall him in to redub lines or something like that. I don't know. Doesn't totally work. But for the most part, I'd say he's fine. He's alright. Playing the leading lady, Sue, is Jeanette McCurdy. And she's pretty good. There's a sequence where she's telling Sam that she's going to be moving to London. She's decided to accept this offer because he can't, he doesn't seem to be taking this thing seriously. He's still kind of a child, that sort of thing. The heartbreak is there in the voice acting, and she does a really good job of making the character sympathetic, even when the writing is not there for you to really have context for why she'd still be with Sam, or what their relationship is, or anything like that. Playing the greatest supervillain the world's ever seen, Victor, is James Woods. And James Woods is, of course, awesome in this film. He's not quite as slick, crazy, hyper as his Hades from the Disney's Hercules film is, but it's still James Woods. And James Woods is still a great actor, and he brings a lot of fun to a very underwritten character who is just kind of evil to be evil, and then is going to renounce all his ways for the love of the mayor. That's his entire arc. It doesn't really change, and it's kind of He brings a lot to it, gets a lot of mileage out of his vocal talent, so that character is really funny because of it. Playing Mayor Catherine, who also happens to be Sue's aunt, which is an issue I didn't bring up in the writing, and I'll get to that in a moment, is Carla Gugino, and she's really good as well. She makes that character, especially at the end of the movie, much more than is on the page. She brings way more to it. That character is very one note. In the beginning of the film, when Sam and Sue are 7 or 8, Sue is going to live with Catherine, who states that only Wittenhouse, I think the last name is, whoever the last name is, Wittenhouse women deserve great rings and great men, which is the reason Sam wants to do these big, epic proposals that keep getting bungled by his robot pals. And it never comes back into play. She's him with dislike Sam for not having any plans for the future, and for not being as great of a person as she believes is right for her niece. Fair enough. But this idea that, like, it should be somebody rich or somehow, involve a really great ring never comes back into play, and it's really awkward, and it's only set up for, like, him buying the ring, like he's confused for the ring that is the bomb. It's weird. Anyway, she brings more to life out of that character than what's written on the page, is my point. Playing Wilmer, one of the 3 superhero friends, is John Heder. John Heder sounds like John Heder. He's not really disguising his voice or anything like that. But he is a very good comedic personality, and he and the other 2 superheroes get a lot of very amusing bits out of that, and that works very nicely. Jason Mewes plays another of the superhero robots named Kit, and I didn't know it was him. Didn't recognize it, had no idea, which I guess is a good thing acting-wise, but it also left no lasting impression. I don't know which one Kit is. I guess he's okay. I don't recall any bad voice acting, so there's that. And finally, for rounding up the superhero robot trio, is Tom Green's Okra. Of the three, I think Tom Green gives the most definitive and lively voice acting performance and is the most memorable in that regard, which is a weird thing to say about Tom Green's performance in anything. As the villainous robot servant Oscar, villainous in that he works with the main bad guy type deal, Jason Kravitz is a lot of fun. He gets some really good, really solid lines and is threatening in a lot of ways. That's enjoyable. The editing by Sang-woo Kim is pretty good. As you've heard me say before, the action scenes in this film are what will really make or break the film for you, as I thought they were a lot of fun in a very kind of Looney Tunes way. And that's very much down to the editing. They could have been really chaotic, but they do work. They are able to follow everything going on, and the movie moves so quickly that, there's just a lot of fun to be had watching this roll out and that sort of thing. Given that this was a straight-to-DVD animated movie, at least here in the States, I found very little information about this movie when I was doing research for it, so I do not know if it got a theatrical release in Korea or not. If somebody else knows, please let me know. The animation is okay. The character designs are really strong. I like that quite a bit. And the world looks interesting. Again, not explained very well, but it's a cool looking world with interesting designs for the robots and the various other things that happen to exist here. There's a weird lack of shadow in the film. Like, there are moments where there are shadows on our characters and that sort of thing, which is appropriate, but there's a kind of disconnect between everything that should have a shadow versus our main character. So the movie never looks like a world you totally believe in. The world looks cool, but it also doesn't necessarily feel lived in and breathed in. Like, look at Zootopia. Zootopia has something going on in every single frame of the movie. Every frame has something moving in the background. Every aspect of the film has action going on. It is a living, breathing entity, the titular city in that film. And the filmmakers took great pains to make sure of that. And that is just one of the numerous reasons that Zootopia is such an amazing film. It's because, like, that world feels thought out. It feels realistic given the concepts and what we're dealing with in the film. That sort of thing. Bling's world does not, and that does come down to the fact that the world feels static and sort of lifeless outside of our main characters and the people they are directly interacting with at any given moment. Finally, we have Jeff Zanelli's score. The score helps the action scenes feel as fun and lively as the editing and the cinematography and everything wants them to be. It works when the more dramatic scenes happen. It definitely works for the comedic scenes. So the score really does liven everything up and is one of the stronger aspects of the movie overall. That's really all I have to say about Bling. This is a sort of wishy-washy review, I realize. The movie has some serious issues in world building, plot inconsistency, and what I must presume is budgetary restraints to make the world and the animation fully come alive. But if you can overlook that, you'll be treated to good voice acting, very good, quick, fun action sequences for kids, and a shockingly great score. Make no mistake about it, this is a kid's movie. Weird though it may be that it involves engagements, superheroes, and villains, and robots. Again, it's an odd kids movie, but it is a kids movie, and on that front, it works. It just is not as great as it could have been based on the potential as shown in the film. Kids will really like it. I think adults will be kind of bored. I don't think they'd mind watching it with their kids, but I doubt this is a movie you would put on unless your child asked you to. Thank you for watching. As always, I've been your host, Bobby, and I will see you next time.